Yeah. Get high rapper. The man hour. You already know. It's live. It's raw. It's going down. Like this. I'm going around and letting everybody know that they welcome to the show. It's the latest thing you ever seen, you already know. Let me introduce you to your host of the hour. If you Mike and Mike. Yeah, it's the man hour. Got the hottest plays, all the breaking news. Every rumor, every trade, every breaking bruise. Tighten knuckle screws. Yeah, it's going down. Have you saying what the fuck and never watered down? It's going down. I'll be rolling up. And if you buy it or you sell it, then you made the cut. Watch me flip it back. I can double up. I got sriracha for that ass, I'ma burn it up. Gotta check the rules and know that if you fair foul, ref throw the whistle, coach throw the towel. We can do this on the field or outside the line. It's the man hour though, now we going live.
And what is up, everybody? Michael Buckhashi here with the Mike and Mike Man Hour. We are finally back, guys. The man cannot hold us down forever. As you guys know, we did get banned from the old Facebook page there for a day or two. But hey, we are back. We are live, raw, and uncut. What is up, my man, Zach Hustler, dude? What is up, dude? Hopefully you're icing that body. We got a big game on for tonight, buddy. So what is up, what is up, what is up? So, guys, as always, you know, Mike LeBlanc is casually late. No, I'm kidding. He is down in Houston take care of some family business. If you guys have missed out, his grandmother did pass away, so he is down there taking care of that today. So we got a special guest coming on to talk some fantasy football tonight. But, guys, head over to mikeandmikemanhour.com. You can catch one of these nice little snapback hats we got going on there. We also got hoodies and T-shirts as well. If you don't like any of that stuff, feel free to donate to the page as well. So, without further ado, 9 days, 23 hours, and 16 minutes, and 34 seconds now until NFL kickoff season. But first, we got to talk fantasy football because that's all that really matters. And welcome to the show, Matt from Kicking and Sticking, another RTF, Kicking or Sticking, I should say. I always mess it up, Matt, every time.
It's all good.
So, Matt, first things first, man, what is up? Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm sweating out a parlay I got going on tonight. I got the Yankees taking home, winning that game, but it's not looking good for me so far. But yeah, man, it's fantasy football season. It's draft season. I had 3 drafts last week. I got one more tomorrow, and then I got another one on Thursday or Friday. So it's getting down to crunch time. Hopefully the season actually happens. You know, it's looking good so far. Got a couple issues, but yeah, hopefully the season happens and we can get going here.
So here on the Man Hour, we have said if the NFL season does get cut short or pushed back or for whatever reason, we are going to hold a Madden simulation and play fantasy football off of Madden simulations. So we'll definitely need to get you in there on that. So that'll be fun, anxiety. What is up, TJ Burns? Yes, our hearts do go out to Mike LeBlanc Jr., as we like to call him over here on the Man Hour, because he is, you know, my other half, because I'm Mike, he's Mike Jr. Get it? Right? Ha, 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 ha.
Oh, yeah.
So, first things first, Matt, tell the people about your show, what it's all about, and where they can find you.
Yeah, so the show's called the Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Football Podcast. It was under a different banner over the past couple of years, but switched the name up. Been rocking all off season, really. Started off with the XFL. I was having a lot of fun with that, man. The XFL was a lot of fun. I know some people like to talk crap about it, but I thought it was great. We actually have a whole bunch of players that have made their way into NFL teams, and whether or not they make the final rosters for opening week for game 1, we're not sure yet, but I was having a lot of fun with the XFL, and unfortunately, that got cut short along with every other sport. But yeah, just been rocking through the draft and free agency, and throughout the summer, I had a good month span where I was just doing positional breakdowns, giving my take on quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. I've been playing fantasy football now for about 10 years. Borderline obsessed with it. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I've even gone as far as to start my own all IDP league, which is you only start defensive players. So you got a defensive tackle, 2 defensive ends, 2 linebackers, 2 corners, 2 safeties, and then you have a defensive back flex spot. So that league's a lot of fun. I'm really excited about getting that league going again. I think we're going to have our draft this weekend. But yeah, so this year I'm going to be, just breaking down each week. I'll be looking at the matchups. I'll be looking at the guys who, stood out from the week before, guys who have, a lot to play for maybe in the following week. And, with sports betting getting a lot bigger, especially out here on the East Coast, I definitely want to spend some time each week looking at some over-unders and looking at especially some prop bets. Last year, I did pretty damn good with tight end anytime score props. There's always those couple of teams that are just absolutely atrocious at defending tight ends. The Arizona Cardinals were pretty much that team last year. I think it was 14 or 15 of the 16 weeks they gave up a touchdown to a tight end. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at the top 24 to top 30 players at running back and wide receiver. We'll look at the top 10 to 12 quarterbacks and tight ends. Oh, I'm sorry, the top 24 running backs and wide receivers, top 12 quarterbacks, tight ends, and we'll be, seeing who's outperforming and who's underperforming, and we'll go from there. It was last year. It was a lot of fun, and this year should be just as much fun. So you can get my show on Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Apple Play, whatever. Pretty much anywhere you can get podcasts, you can find my show. So definitely check it out. Tune in. I release it pretty much Thursday nights, so you can get it on your Friday drive-in. I might actually start recording Thursday night during Thursday Night Football. And then you can catch me on the RTF Sports Network at 6 o'clock on Friday nights. So yeah, thanks again for having me on. I'm excited to talk fantasy football with you.
Yeah, man. I've been playing fantasy football now for a couple years. I've never really dove deep in depth the way I am diving into it this season. But I am taking home the Mike and Mike Man Hour Trophy this season, along with that $50. So if you guys have interested in signing up in the Mike and Mike Man Hour fantasy football, head over to our Facebook page. The link is on the like page. Also, we are giving away that $100 Amazon gift card once we hit the 500 likes as well. We are, a couple away. So, guys, go ahead and jump over there. And we're also giving away the $100 gift card every 500 likes after that. So 500, 1,000, 1,500, etc. So before you went and talked about fantasy football, I peeped out something that you said that you were rooting for the Yankees tonight.
It was just tonight, man. You got Garrett Cole on the mound.
Right.
He's coming off of probably his worst performance in years. I figured this was the game to pull the trigger on the Yanks, but it's not looking good for me. I'm usually big on strikeout over/under props. I've been doing really well with those. I hit on Jacob deGrom today over 8.5. He finished with 9. I hit on Marco Gonzalez with the Mariners. I think his was at 4.5, and last time I checked, he was at 5. So, but yeah, of course, the one day I'm actually rooting for the Yankees, they kill me. So hopefully they got another grand slam in the bottom of the ninth, like they did against my Metropolitans the other night.
Yeah. So speaking of that, Coombs is our Major League Baseball power rankings guy for RTF, and we are in a group chat, and last week he had the Yankees at like number 2 or number 3, and then they've lost like 10 or 11 in a row, right? And then he dropped them down to 8 this week, and like I was talking shit to him because I believe the Mets were up 7-2 going into the bottom of the 7th because they're playing that double hitter game, so they don't play 7 innings, right? And then I literally walk away, put my son down for a nap. I walk back, and it's the bottom of the 8th inning, and the Yankees are like winning. I'm like, what the hell is just happened? I missed the grand slam. I missed the epic comeback because I thought the game was over. I thought the Yankees were gonna just chalk it up. 7-2. We've lost like 10 in a row now. Why not make it 11, and then they're going to come back in an hour and play again and maybe battle. So maybe they're back on the upswing. Like, you never know. But injuries always hurt the Yankees year in and year out, it seems like.
Yeah, man, they seem like they can't keep their guys on the field. I don't know what it is, man. Hamstring injuries and other lower leg issues. It's not just the Yankees. It seems like it's all sports. I mean, we saw Odell Beckham last year. He missed like 2 or 3 games where he had cramps because he wasn't staying hydrated enough. It's ridiculous to me. I don't understand how these players don't just take an extra half hour every day and go out and stretch and stay hydrated. But yeah, the Mets bullpen has just been absolutely horrendous this year. They lost both of those games to the Yankees in that doubleheader. It's pretty much it's every single one of the relievers as well. It's not just Edwin Diaz, who I'm actually looking at some of his stats right here. So in 73 innings last year, he's got 71 innings this year. He only gave up 5 home runs in 2018, but in 2019, 2020, he's given up 17 home runs. So that's just a quick little glimpse into just how bad the Mets bullpen has been. They kill me every day, man. It sucks. They got decent starting pitching, or at least they used to before. Syndergaard, this dude, somebody's got to tell him he plays baseball and not football. The guy's, deadlifting 500 pounds and whatnot and tearing his lat and everything else. But yeah, it's frustrating being a Met and a Jet fan, but I make it work.
So if I would have known you were gonna wear your Mets jersey, I would have worn my Royals jersey to really poke at you.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
But hey, I will let that go. I mean, I would still be kicking myself like if I was a Met fan, because the pitcher basically refused to come out of the game and basically cost you guys the World Series. That was DeGrom, wasn't it, that refused to come out of the game?
No, that was Matt Harvey, man.
Oh, that's right.
I was at that game. My uncle, shout out to Uncle Ray, the best uncle in the world. He got me and my dad, who's also a massive Mets and Jets fan. He got us tickets to that Game 5, and we were there, and yeah, Matt Harvey was cruising through 7 1/3 innings or whatever it was, and then he wouldn't come out of the game, and he didn't blow the game. He did put 2 guys on, and then I think it was Jerry's Familia who blew the game, but no, it wasn't DeGrom. DeGrom's been the most underrated, best player, best pitcher for the Mets. For the past couple of years, it's always been about Syndergaard and it's been about Harvey, but really the most consistent player for the Mets and the most consistent pitcher by far has been Jacob deGrom. He's got, he's coming off of these 2 Cy Youngs in a row. He's just awesome. I love watching him pitch. Unfortunately today, he actually gave up more than 2 runs for like the first time in I don't know how long. Seems like years.
Right.
But yeah, that's how it goes, man. That's why baseball, it's a great sport. I love baseball, but it's just so streaky, and you could look dominating in one week, like you were talking about with the Yanks, and then the next week they look horrible. But that's how it goes.
Yeah. So before we head to a break here, I have to ask you this question: Will the Mets or your Jets ever win a big game? Meaning World Series, Super Bowl.
I mean, I have faith in Jacob deGrom. The rest of the team, not so much right now, but I hate to say it, and it's kind of this old cliche, like when you have a crappy owner like the Mets do, but I really think that if the Wilpons sell the team, which they're in talks of doing, that if they can get a legit guy in there that cares about winning and that doesn't mind spending money, I really think the Mets can do it, man. I mean, you're in New York. You're in one of the biggest markets in baseball and biggest markets in all of sports, really. If they can, fill out this pitching staff and a couple of the young guys for the Mets, if they can start really playing, I think they have a shot. But, it starts from the top down. As far as the Jets go, for the past 15, 20 years, I kind of haven't really been expecting too much from the Jets because of that guy that was playing up in New England. But now that he's gone, I figured, hey, we finally have a shot, And Sam Darnold, yeah, he saw ghosts and he kind of had a crappy sophomore year last year. But, I remember watching a couple years ago in that Rose Bowl game, USC versus Penn State, and I remember saying, damn, this guy's good. I'd love to see him in a Jets uniform one day. And that happened, and it's going to be cool to actually see what Darnold can do behind a real professional offensive line. Last year their offensive line was absolute garbage. They had nobody at wide receiver. Now they finally, they got this kid Denzel Mims from Baylor. They got Chris Herndon, that tight end's coming back. He should hopefully be healthy to start the season. We saw glimpses from Jamison Crowder last year as looking like he's a legitimate slot receiver. And then you got Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. So, if they can put it together, I think they have as good of a shot as anybody in the AFC East. I'm not completely sold on Josh Allen yet, and so we'll see what happens. Could they? Of course they could. Hopefully one day before I die, I'll see a championship. But you got to take it year by year, I guess, right?
Yeah, I said the same thing about my Kansas City team, like a lock as well. I mean, when our baseball team was consistently getting 105 losses every year in and year out, and then all of a sudden we're 500. Oh, okay, maybe. So I mean, any given Sunday, any NFL team can win. That's why I love the NFL so much. For if you are new to the show here, Matt, and haven't been watching the Facebook page like it all, I actually did pick the Jets as a sleeper pick this season to make the playoffs. So hopefully, Sam Darnold can keep the momentum moving forward and not have mono and basically almost die on us. But with that being said, guys, we got to take a quick little break. And on the other side of the break, we're going to dive deep into fantasy football talk here with Matt McPeak from Kickin' or Stickin' podcast right here on the RTF Sports Network. We'll be right back right after this, guys. Welcome back to the Mike and Mike Man Hour, guys. Here, Michael Buckeister here with the live, raw, and uncut sports talk with a special guest of Matt McPeak from Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Podcast right here on the RTF Sports Network page. We got some subscribers coming into our YouTube channel, guys. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the $5 donation as well. We definitely appreciate that, guys. If you are not watching us on the YouTube channel, head over to youtube.com/Mike and Mike Man Hour. And we have a vote going on right now. The poll question is, will Kansas City repeat this season in Super Bowl? Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I hope so, because I put $100 on them to repeat. So and I think they have as good a chance as any team has in the past. We saw that defense make some pretty significant strides forward last year. I think consistency this year is going to be as big as anything. They got pretty much the entire offensive line is back. Patrick Mahomes is healthy. You got Travis Kelce's coming back. So, I mean, they got as good a shot as anybody to repeat. And, like I said, I'm hoping they repeat as well so they can make me some money.
Yeah, and some breaking news has broke about here about 35 minutes to an hour ago. Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs have locked in a six-year deal. So the 62-year-old Andy Reid will be locked up for another 6 years, along with the general manager. His name's slipping my mind. So Kansas City is putting all their stones in place to make a dynasty type of run, even though Andy Reid is, I believe, 62 or 63 years old, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, he's definitely not young. But, I mean, as far as head coaches go, I think he's in the top 4 or 5 as far as oldest coaches, but he doesn't seem like it, right? He seems like he's a young guy, and when you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, I think he'd be willing to coach until he's 100.
Right? Yeah, I mean, a talent like Patrick Mahomes is very, very rare. So, Matt, the reason why you are on the show tonight is because of the Mike and Mike Man Hour Fantasy League that we have joining, guys. So if you're interested in joining that, head over to our Facebook page. The link is pinned up at the top of the page, or join the Trash Talk group as well, Sports Trash Talk, and it is in there as well. Also, if you like the page, you get entered in to win that $100 Amazon gift card, so definitely feel free to join with that as well. But, like I said, the draft is next Sunday at 10:15 p.m. East Coast time. We're going to do it live right here on the podcast, but we're doing a what is it called, a PPF, I believe, or a PFF? Is that what it's called?
PPR.
Oh,
it's called
PPR, right.
It stands points per reception. So your players get points for every catch that they make.
Yeah, so that is like the most common, league that everybody is playing in. But I'm also doing a draft on Saturday with my man Jameson. I see him; he is in the chat as well. What is up, Jameson? Hope you're having a great night, man. But in that draft, Matt, I got the 4th overall pick. You being the fantasy expert for RTF Sports Network here, who are some players that you would draft in the first round?
So, I mean, as far as the 4th pick goes, this year I'm really trying to start each draft with 2 running backs. My first 2 picks, I want 2 running backs, and that's mainly because the wide receiver position is extremely deep this year. Between all the rookies that were just drafted and a lot of guys, that have moved teams, like DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs. I really want to try and get 2 running backs with my first 2 picks. However, you being at the 4th spot, chances are you're going to be stuck deciding between Michael Thomas, who is by far and away the best receiver in PPR leagues, and one of 3 or 4 running backs, depending on who falls. Chances are you're going to see Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook go. 3 of those 4 guys are most likely going to go ahead of Michael Thomas. So you're going to be in a tough spot, which a lot of other people are going to be in that same tough spot as far as having the 4th or 5th pick in PPR leagues. Do you take Michael Thomas, the guy that's going to catch 100 passes most likely, like he has the past 2 years now, I think? Him and Drew Brees, they're as tight as you can get as far as that connection that they have together. The Saints finally did bring in another wide receiver to play opposite him in Emmanuel Sanders, but Michael Thomas is still the top dog there. So if you wanted to go wide receiver with your first pick, I can't blame you. But like I said, I'm trying to get 2 running backs to start off. And so for me, if those 4 running backs that I mentioned, McCaffrey, Barkley, Zeke, and Cook, if they all go, and you're kind of stuck looking at Michael Thomas or Alvin Kamara, I would go Alvin Kamara. Like I said, you can't go wrong taking Michael Thomas, but I want to get those one of those top running backs, and especially in a PPR league, somebody like Alvin Kamara who's going to catch a bunch of passes. They know how great he is at running routes and how elusive he is. So I would go Alvin Kamara if I were you, if he was available. If not, then yeah, you might as well just take Michael Thomas and be set at wide receiver 1 and know that you're going to have the guy that is most likely going to catch the most passes among wide receivers this year. Another guy that I'm super high on in PPR leagues especially is Miles Sanders. Him and Joe Mixon, really. So at the end of the first round, you should be able to get either one of them. Both of them should be pretty solid picks. Sanders showed us last year that he can be productive and he can be relied on with the Eagles wide receiving core being as bad as they were last year. They were really just extremely hurt. We saw Alshon Jeffrey was hurt and Deshaun Jackson was in and out of the lineup. But it already looks like the Eagles wide receiving core is behind the 8 ball. Alshon Jeffrey is going to be starting the season on the PUP list. And Jalen Reagor, rookie wide receiver for the Eagles, he looks like he's going to miss the first couple weeks with a shoulder injury. So I think Miles Sanders should see 50-plus targets again like he did last year, at least 50 targets this year because he's going to be the starting running back. He's going to be the number 1 guy from day one. As far as Joe Mixon goes, I think he's ready to have a legit breakout year. The Bengals offensive line should be a lot better this year. Their first overall pick in 2019 actually missed the whole 2019 season. Left tackle, I forget where he was from, but he should be back, ready to go. They also drafted another offensive lineman this year, so the offensive line should be a lot better. Obviously, they got the first overall pick this year with the quarterback from LSU. He looks like he should be the man, and they got so much talent at wide receiver now with A.J. Green coming back, playing on the franchise tag, Tyler Boyd coming back. They got John Ross, who's a speedster. I think he actually broke the record for the fastest 40 time last year at the Combine. And then they got another rookie, T. Higgins, who looks like he could be the next A.J. Green, another guy from Clemson. So they're absolutely loaded on offense. And with all that talent on the outside, Joe Mixon he's probably never going to see any more than 7 guys in the box. So he should see plenty of opportunities to really have a good year for us. As far as first round guys that I don't like, Derrick Henry is somebody that in a PPR league I would avoid in the first round like the plague. He's been a beast for us fantasy owners, especially at the end of the season and in the playoffs. But the dude had over 400 touches last year between the regular season and the playoffs. We saw DeMarco Murray on the same Titans team a couple of years ago. In 2016, he had 350 touches, and in the following year, his rushing yards per game were cut in half. 2 years before that, when he was playing with Dallas, they completely ran him into the ground. He had over 450 touches that year, and the following season, he went from 115 to 46 yards per game. So Derrick Henry is just too big of a risk for me to take in the first round, especially in a PPR league. Now, if you're talking non-PPR, if you're talking a standard league, yes, Derrick Henry is 100% a great pick in the first round because he's going to see 20 carries at least every week. But like I said, in PPR leagues, I'm avoiding him. You want guys in the first round that are going to catch the ball. You want guys that are going to be targeted, and that's why I like guys like Kamara and Miles Sanders. DeAndre Hopkins is another guy in the first round that I'm really not all that crazy about. He's had 150 or more targets in his last 6 years now. He's never had so much competition for targets as he will this year in Arizona. You got the future Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald, who's had over 100 targets in every single year of his career. And you got this young guy with huge potential, Christian Kirk, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Plus, they got Kenyon Drake, who proved last year that he can be really good and he can be relied on, and you can count on him in the passing game. So I worry about DeAndre Hopkins. Not that I think the head coach down there with the Texans, Bill O'Brien, is a genius or anything. In fact, I kind of think he's an idiot. But you don't let a number one, a top dog wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins go unless you really see something going on with him. They must have saw something, some kind of decline in his future for them to trade him away for, especially when all you got was David Johnson and his horrible contract. So he's another guy that I'm really not all that crazy about in the first round.
Yeah, two things to address there. I think Bill O'Brien is a great regular season coach. He just can't produce in the playoffs. So, obviously, the Hopkins trade is a big head scratcher, like on that thing. But looking at that Houston wide receiver core, they have Fuller the fifth, they have Randall Cobb, and they picked up somebody else. Name slipping my mind right now, but I think Houston receiving core will be just fine for Deshaun Watson moving forward. But now let me address that pick that you told me to take at the fourth overall pick. You think Alvin Kamara will be there available. However, he has missed the last 3 days of practice because of contract disputes and whatnot. Do you think that will affect his game readiness here in 9 to 13 days when the football season kicks off?
I do not. Sean Payton, I think, is one of the smartest coaches in the league. You got Drew Brees playing potentially in his last season. Like I said, they brought in Emmanuel Sanders. I think they're going to do whatever they got to do to make Kamara happy. Last year, we saw him dealing with some injury stuff, and he was still a top 10 running back. So I'm not worried about him at all. I think they'll figure it out. They'll get him the money that he needs, the money that he deserves. He's been one of the best running backs in the league ever since he joined the league a couple years ago, and we saw him with Sean Payton. Sean Payton knows how to draw up plays, and he knows how valuable this kid is. So I think they're going to get it figured out. I would not be worried about it at all. But like I said, if you are worried about it, then take the sure thing with Michael Thomas, because his contract is not a worry for him. I think he's $100 million man, so
right.
He'll be just fine. Either one of those guys, you'll be great with. You'll have one of the best players in the league. But like I said, if you're asking me what I would do with that fourth spot, I'd rather have Kamara, simply because that running back position it's so huge in fantasy football.
Right, and also some big news that happened earlier today, that the Jaguars did release Leonard Fournette. So those people that drafted him, that have already had fantasy drafts, I would probably hang on to him still. He is going to find a spot somehow, somewhere, or that could be trade bait maybe too. So if you're interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, I drafted Leonard Fournette with my third pick in a non-PPR league just the other day, and then listening to the radio this morning, I got the news that he was cut, and honestly, I wasn't surprised. We've been hearing all offseason that the Jags have been trying to trade him, and he's had multiple suspensions down there. He's had a lot of issues staying on the field, whether it's health concerns or behavioral issues. So yeah, I kind of ran to the waiver wire real quick, and I added Raheem. I forget how to say his name, to be honest. Armstead. He should be the number one running back there in Jacksonville. But also, you got Chris Thompson, who was signed in the offseason. So for PPR leagues, Chris Thompson is a guy that I think has now vaulted himself into, maybe 12th, 13th round consideration. He should catch a whole bunch of passes. We saw him with the Washington football team over the past few years. He's been one of the better pass-catching running backs in the league. So there's two guys that, if you're looking at that Jacksonville team and you want some of the players on that team, then those are the guys you're going to want to target with Leonard Fournette no longer on the Jaguars.
All right, guys. If you guys are just tuning in here, we have Matt McPeak here from Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Podcast right here on the RTSSportsNetwork.com. He's on Fridays at 6 p.m. So on your drive home to get ready for your fantasy weekend. So we just got through round number one, Matt. You told us some people who you would draft early and people to stay away from. Now moving on to the second round. Most leagues are the snake league, so you get that early pick and then you get the last pick in the second round. So with that being said, who do you think would have fall down to me? I believe it'd be pick 18 or 19. I think would be in the end.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on if you're in a 10 or a 12 team league. But one thing that I have been doing for the past couple of years, and it's really helped me, I go over to fantasypros.com and I look up the ADP of the league. It stands for average draft position. What Fantasy Pros does is they kind of accumulate the ADP from ESPN, from Yahoo, from CBS, from NFL Network, and they pretty much make an accumulation of where every player is being drafted on average, depending on what format you play. So what I do is I go in and I print out the top 200 players, and I just go through and I circle which pick is mine. So right now I'm looking at my draft board for a draft that I have tomorrow. I have the 12th pick because I won the league. Thank you very much. But so I'm picking last, which means I pick 12th and then 13th. So I pick last in the first round, and then I pick first in the second round. Like you said, it's a snake draft, which is very common. So I go through and I look at what players should be available generally for me at each pick. So for you, picking in the fourth round, is this league a 10 or a 12 team league for you?
This will be a 12 team league.
Okay, yeah. So you're looking at pick number 21 roughly. So right now, according to Fantasy Pros ADP, you're looking at Chris Godwin, slot receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's a guy that had a huge year last year with Jameis Winston, and now he's got Tom Brady throwing him the ball, which should be even better for him. So, again, like I said, I kind of want to go 2 running backs with my first 2 picks, but Chris Godwin is a guy that I can't hate you for taking him in the second round. So if you do go Michael Thomas in the first, I probably would try not to go with Chris Godwin in the second. I would definitely try and lock down one of these running backs in the second round. For you, if he falls to you, I would jump all over him, and this is another Kansas City Chief, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, rookie running back. Andy Reid was quoted as saying that he thinks this kid can be better than Brian Westbrook, which up here in the Philadelphia area, that is a huge statement. Brian Westbrook was one of the best fantasy football players and one of the best football players in general. If you remember, maybe 10, 15 years ago now, he had that play where I think it was like week 15 or 16. The Eagles are running down the clock, and instead of running in for the touchdown, he just took a knee and kind of fell over at the 1 yard line, which
football IQ right there.
Yeah, exactly. He's a smart dude. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire looks like he can be an absolute monster in this offense. You know, you got Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill just scaring the living daylights out of defensive players. And with Patrick Mahomes' ability to really throw the ball from any angle, from anywhere on the field, I think he's going to get this kid the ball a lot. Damian Williams opted out, so it is Clyde Edwards-Helaire's backfield. It's the best offense in football, and he'll get all the touches that he can handle. Right now, he's going behind Austin Eckler and Josh Jacobs, which to me is kind of crazy. But if Clyde Edwards-Helaire does fall to you in the second round, I would jump all over him. Another guy that I really like in the second round is Kenyon Drake. He's a guy that came in after the trade from Miami last year. He had a massive impact on that Cardinals team. From week 8 on, he was the number 7 running back in full PPR. With the Cardinals, he had his highest yards per attempt since his rookie year, the most attempts per game in his career last year. He had more rushing touchdowns in his 8 games with the Cardinals than he did in his previous 2 years in Miami combined. So I've been targeting Drake in all of my PPR leagues in the second round. I absolutely love Kenyon Drake this year. So he's another guy that if you're picking in the middle of the second round and he's there, I would jump on him. If you're somebody that wants Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, you're pretty much in a really good spot there with the 4th slot in the second round to be able to still get them, but you're definitely not going to be able to get them in the third round. So if you want to, have the best quarterback in football, then you're probably going to want to pull the trigger on Mahomes or Lamar Jackson there in the middle of the second round. They're definitely not going to last past the 24th, 25th round or 25th pick. Another guy that should be able to perform up to his ADP, George Kittle. He's going at the middle of the second round as well. He's going 3 or 4 picks after Travis Kelce. And I think it's warranted this year with Deebo Samuel slated to miss a bunch of games to start the year. Kittle is such a huge part of that offense. He's probably the best blocking tight end in football, which doesn't really help us fantasy football players, but that keeps him on the field. And obviously, you're not going to get targeted if you're not on the field, and you're not going to catch the ball if you're not targeted. So, his ability to help out in the run game definitely helps out his fantasy value. I'm usually not one to take a tight end, with a second, even a third round pick. I usually like to wait until the middle of the draft to take a tight end, just because there's so many guys, and from year to year, there's so many guys that kind of jump in and out. I mean, just look at last year with Darren Waller. He was in a lot of leagues. He wasn't even drafted, and he finished in the top 5 among tight ends. He was kind of a PPR darling last year. But this year, George Kittle is definitely worth it simply because that wide receiver core for the 49ers is looking like it's going to be pretty beat up to start the season. Or you could, look at Zach Ertz, who he's in a very similar position. The Eagles wide receiving core is looking like it's in shambles to start the season. So Zach Ertz should start out the season seeing plenty of targets.
So just to address some comments that are coming here over on our YouTube channel, guys. If you guys are not tuning into the YouTube channel, we do have a poll going over there. Would you not take Travis Kelce over those two guys?
It's not that I wouldn't take him. He's, probably going to be the best tight end in football again. But like I said, I can't take a tight end in the second round, man. There's just there's too many guys that we'll get to later in the show that I think have just as much upside as Kittle does. Yes, Kittle, Ertz, and Travis Kelce will most likely finish as the number 1, 2, and 3 tight ends in football this year. But there's just too many other guys in the second round that I think you should really try and focus on running back, particularly, and in PPR leagues, you want to get one of these top wide receivers. You can't go wrong taking one of these top tight ends. They usually always perform to their ADP, but like I said, I'm not one to take a tight end so high. I want to get myself a top dog at running back or wide receiver before I worry about taking a tight end.
So in the second round, you want to stay away from the tight end spot? Like is that kind of your spot to stay away from?
I would, yeah. I mean, like I said, I would try and focus on one of those running backs I mentioned. If you're talking a non-PPR league, I think Josh Jacobs is a great pick in the second round. Somebody I'm not all that crazy about in the second round, Aaron Jones. The dude had like 13 touchdowns last year. I think he was tied with Christian McCaffrey among running backs. That is definitely not going to happen again this year, so I would stay away from him. But yeah, man, there's so many really good players that you can take in the second round that are going to be staples for you, that are going to get you, double-digit fantasy points every single week. You can take a flyer in the middle of the draft on some of these other tight ends that, again, we'll talk about in a couple minutes once we get to the middle of the draft. I would stay away from tight ends, but like I said, if you're somebody that doesn't want to have to worry about streaming tight ends or this guy kind of sucks and I got to week to week worry about who I'm going to start at tight end. If you want to take the sure thing and go with one of these top 3 tight ends, go for it. But that's just not my strategy.
Yeah, I would be more bent to get a running back or a receiver. As much as I do love Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in the fantasy leagues, I think there's other quarterbacks out there that would do just as well later in the round. So moving on to the third round here, who is your must-have in the third round?
So my must-have in the third round, like I said, I'm really trying to focus on running back in the first 2 rounds, and then rounds 3 to 5, I'm trying to hammer the wide receivers. I'm seeing Kenny Golladay going at the top of the third round. I think that's a pretty solid pick. He finished as the number 4 wide receiver in full PPR last year, and he played half the season with a bunch of chumps at quarterback. I think Golladay will easily finish in the top 12 among wide receivers this year, especially if Matthew Stafford can stay healthy. So he's one guy I really like in the third round. Another guy is DJ Moore. He had a big year last year with a below-average quarterback. The Panthers went out and signed Teddy Bridgewater, who is no savior, don't get me wrong, but he has always been an accurate quarterback and a guy that can get the ball to his best players. He completed 8 or more passes with Michael Thomas in 5 of the 6 games that he started in place of Drew Brees last year. So that tells me he knows how to get the ball to the top dog, top wide receiver on the team. So I'm not saying DJ Moore is on the same level as Michael Thomas, but in PPR leagues, I think DJ Moore is a fantastic pick in the third round. Yes, they did bring in Robbie Anderson, but Robbie Anderson is a deep threat, and I really don't think he's going to pose that much of a threat to DJ Moore as far as the targets go. A guy that I am avoiding in the third round is Juju Smith-Schuster. Love Juju. He's definitely a great follow on Instagram. He's one of these young players that he's definitely exciting, but it's nothing against Juju. Please, Juju, if you hear this, I love you, bro, but it's the quarterback situation there. Big Ben's coming off of that elbow injury. He's now 38, but he's got a lot of tread on his tires. This dude has taken a lot of hits over the years. So I'm actually completely avoiding all Steelers players this year. Between him and James Conner, has had a bunch of injury concerns as well. I'm nervous about the Steelers, man. So I'm avoiding Juju. I'm avoiding James Conner, who is actually, I think he's going in the middle of the 4th round as of right now. But yeah, so DJ Moore, Kenny Golladay, 2 great picks in the middle of the 3rd round. Don't be fooled. Don't go after Leonard Fournette if you're looking at the rankings in your draft and he's showing up in the middle of the 3rd round. Let's wait until we see what team he ends up on. He's going to end up on a team. He's too much of a talent. Honestly, I think the Eagles are crazy to let him sit out there on the waiver wire with Miles Sanders as their number 1 guy. He's not the biggest back. I think the Eagles could use a power back like Leonard Fournette, and you can get him for cheap too. So let's wait on Leonard Fournette so far this draft season. So yeah, those are the guys in the 3rd round that I like.
Yeah, that would definitely be a good 1-2 punch for the Philadelphia Eagles, because I actually had Miles Sanders as the number 4 ranked running back in the all of NFL. So I think really highly of Miles Sanders moving forward this season. So you have given us the 1st round, the 2nd round, and the third round. Usually all of the big names have come off the board like at this time. Like you'll still have some big name quarterbacks usually floating out there in the 4th round. But who are you targeting here in the fourth round?
So my biggest targets in the 4th round, Calvin Ridley is a guy who's ready to have a breakout year. He's going into his 3rd year, which is usually when we see these young wide receivers really take off. I bet he finally sees over 100 targets with Mohamed Sanu gone. He's solidified himself as the number 2 guy there behind Julio. And they signed 3 new offensive linemen, and they drafted another offensive lineman in the 3rd round down there in Atlanta. So I'm really excited to be able to get Calvin Ridley in the 4th round. Another guy is DK Metcalf, an absolute monster of a human being. You look at this dude and you'd think he's like a left tackle, but no, he plays wide receiver. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in the league throwing him the ball, Russell Wilson. I love watching Russell Wilson play football. He's so fun to watch. And Russ has actually said this offseason that he wants to throw the ball more this year. They've really been a team that focuses on running the ball over the past few years, but I think this is the year that they finally say, Russ, here you go, throw the ball 30-plus times a game, and let's see what can happen. DK Metcalf is clearly the number 1 guy in Seattle. The Seahawks running backs, Chris Carson and Rashad Penny, are both coming off of pretty serious injuries. Rashad Penny is going to be starting the year on the PUP list. They brought in Carlos Hyde to try and take some of the load off of Chris Carson. So I think we see a little more from the Seahawks passing game this year than we have in the years past, and I think DK Metcalf stands to benefit the most from that increase. Another guy is DJ Shark. We just got the news this morning, like we were talking about with Leonard Fournette getting cut. The Jaguars just traded their best defensive player to the Vikings, so this defense is going to be very bad. They're going to be really young. They're going to have probably 4 or 5 guys starting rookies starting on that defense. So they did draft another wide receiver in the 1st round, Laviska Shenault, who could be a big PPR guy down the road, but I think this year it's going to be DJ Shark's show down there in Jacksonville. He's going actually in the middle of the 5th round, but if you're picking in the middle of the 4th and Calvin Ridley, Robert Woods is another great pick in the 4th round. But I love DJ Shark, so he's a guy that I'm excited about in the 4th round. Let's go quickly to the 5th round because there's really one position that's that's going big in the 5th round, and that's quarterback. So if you don't want to take a quarterback in the 2nd round, if you don't want to have Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, then the 5th round is really where you want to start looking for quarterback. You got Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson. They're all going in the middle, beginning of the 5th round. My favorite out of that group is actually Deshaun Watson. I know the Texans traded away DeAndre Hopkins, and they did trade for Brendan Cooks. And although I don't see David Johnson really doing much at all in the running game, I think he gives them another legit option in the passing game. I think we see Deshaun Watson throw the ball a lot more this year than we have in his first 3 years. All 4 of these guys are going to be great, so you can't really go wrong with any one of them. But if you want to have yourself a top 5 quarterback and you don't want to, risk, having to take somebody else later in the draft, the 5th round is really where you want to start targeting your quarterbacks. Like I said, you can't really go wrong with any one of them, but my guy out of those 4 is going to be Deshaun Watson.
So one of the questions that came over on the YouTube channel here, guys, if you guys are not watching on the YouTube channel, you should be, and hit that subscribe button as we give merch away over there on the YouTube channel every week. Jameson won a snapback hat last week, so definitely jump over there and subscribe. One of the questions is how late can they take a quarterback and still get a good quarterback?
It's a good question. That's a question a lot of people find themselves asking in the middle of the draft every year. I mean, honestly, dude, there's a couple guys that are going in the the 14th round that I honestly think could end up being top 10 quarterbacks. You're talking Gardner Minshew, Phillip Rivers, and Cam Newton. All 3 of them are going right now in the 15th round. They're all going in the 170th range. So if you really want to just load up on depth and take nothing but running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends for the first 12 picks, I think you can take a guy later and at the very end of the draft and still be okay. This year, it seems like more than any other year that the quarterback position really is insanely deep. Another guy that you can kind of look at in like the 7th, 8th round, Daniel Jones with the Giants. I know a lot of guys out here in the East Coast, they love ripping on the Giants and Daniel Jones because he seems like a pretty goofy dude. But we saw him come in and play pretty damn well as a rookie on a pretty bad team too.
Horrible team.
Another New York football team that had an absolutely atrocious offensive line. But he was a dude that we saw, use his legs and give us a lot of production in the running game. That's something I think fantasy owners, if you're new to fantasy football, that's a huge aspect in fantasy football is when you can get rushing production out of your quarterback. We saw Lamar Jackson last year. He won me 3 or 4 leagues simply because he was essentially a top 10 running back and a top 10 quarterback in one player. So guys like Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, and Daniel Jones are quarterbacks that are going to give you production in the running game, and that's just invaluable when it comes to fantasy football. So, yeah, I mean, if you really want to wait it out, I think Gardner Minshew is a great pick as far as taking the extreme weight approach to quarterbacks. Like I mentioned, that defense is going to be atrocious this year, and I think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. We saw Gardner Minshew was playing pretty well last year as well, even though he had Nick Foles over his shoulder breathing down his neck. But Nick Foles is gone now. They traded him away this offseason because the Jacksonville Jaguars obviously feel like Gardner Minshew is their guy. So I think he's somebody that you can take at the very end of the draft. Again, Cam Newton is another guy that no matter what, this dude, I guarantee you he's going to finish as a top 12 quarterback. And Phillip Rivers is another guy. He's on a new team now. His head coach, Frank Reich, is going to get the best out of him. I love Frank Reich, and Phillip Rivers is going to be playing behind probably the best offensive line that he's ever had. So there's 3 quarterbacks for you that you can definitely target in the double-digit rounds. If you want to be safe and kind of go after them maybe in the 12th, 13th round, I think you'll be safe enough going with one of those guys. And then, every week you can pretty much stream quarterbacks looking at the matchups. seeing who's hot, who's not, and you can get away with playing one of those guys that you're not really looking at on draft day throughout the weeks.
Right. Oh, okay, guys. So we are with Matt McPeak from Kickin' or Stickin' Fantasy Football Podcast right here on the RTSSportsNetwork.com. You can find him Fridays, 6 p.m. On the RTSSportsNetwork.com radio network. So, Matt, before we let you go here, I want you to give the people 5 do's and don'ts of playing fantasy football, because fantasy football is always bringing in new people, new players, and sometimes they just need to be, hey, don't do this. So what are some 5 do's and don'ts for fantasy football this season?
Well, as far as PPR leagues go, like I said, when you're looking at running backs, you really want to target running backs that have big upside in the passing game. You want guys that are going to be involved as far as targets go. Honestly, I think the amount of targets that a running back gets might be more valuable than the amount of carries he gets, because once you get past the top 15, 16 running backs, very rarely do you see guys that are going to be, guaranteed 15, 16 carries a game. So you want guys that are targeted a lot. Don't overreact. If you see a guy have a big game, don't go out and drop a really good player that you were high on draft day. Let's say after week 1 somebody has a big game. Don't freak out and blow all your free agent acquisition bucks if you play that style of waiver wire. Don't overreact to players. Go with the sure thing as far as the beginning of the draft, and then once you get towards the end of the draft, you want guys that have upside. So as far as tight end goes, there's a couple guys that I'm really targeting. Hayden Hurst with the Atlanta Falcons. He was traded from the Ravens. Mike Gesicki was huge for the Dolphins last year. He was pretty much used as a wide receiver, and that Dolphins team had 2 wide receivers that opted out this offseason. So I think Mike Gesicki is going to be big for the Dolphins. Don't be an idiot and draft a kicker or a defense in the first 10 rounds. Honestly, every draft, I wait until my last 2 picks to take a kicker and a defense, because honestly, by week 3 or week 4, there's a defense that's not going to be drafted that's going to end up as one of the best defenses in the league. So really load up on depth at running back and wide receiver. You want to make sure that you have plenty of guys, because dudes are going to get hurt, especially this year with the whole COVID issue. You're going to have guys that are going to be dropping like flies. So I would really wait until the last 2 picks to take your kicker and your defense. You want kickers that are going to be on high-scoring offenses. If you can, go after kickers that play in domes or play in warm weather cities like Los Angeles or Arizona. Kickers in Buffalo and New England don't, although New England's kicker has been one of the best for the past few years, generally speaking, those cold weather city kickers are really not all that great. But yeah, don't overreact to things. And also, if there's somebody that you like, don't be afraid to draft them. Like I was talking about building my draft board, because I'm picking at the 12th spot, the last pick in the first round. Essentially, every one of my picks, I'm going to have to be looking for someone that's either falling to me or someone that I'm reaching for. And honestly, I have no problem with that. If there's somebody you like, don't be afraid to pull the trigger on them. Don't be afraid of people talking smack that you took somebody too high, because honestly, every single year there's guys that are drafted in the 6th to 8th round, like Austin Eckler last year, like Alvin Kamara in years past, that they finished the year as top 5 guys. So like I said, go for guys with big upside towards the end of the draft, and really load up on depth. I think this year more than ever, having depth at running back and wide receiver is going to be extremely important, because we just don't know what the hell is going to happen week to week. So load up on depth. Wait for kicker and DST. honestly, I would wait at quarterback as well. In all my leagues, I'm pretty much waiting until the 8th round and hoping that I can still pick up Tom Brady, who should have a great year down there in Tampa Bay with all those weapons, probably the best wide receiver group he's ever going to have, and a quarterback or a coach in Bruce Arians that no risk it, no biscuit. He's going to let Tom Brady wing it out there. So, yeah, man, and have fun with it too. Don't take it so seriously. Most people, you're only paying $20, maybe $50 to get in the league. So don't let it be this thing that controls your life like it controls mine. My girlfriend can attest to this. She absolutely hates this time of year. But yeah, definitely have fun with it because it is a lot of fun. It's to me, it's the best game. It's the best puzzle you could possibly play. It's like a 16-week puzzle. It's so much fun. So enjoy it and definitely check out my show. Feel free to hit me up on Facebook, on Instagram. I'll more than gladly help out anybody who's got any questions. I'm definitely no expert, but I've been playing long enough. I know some things to look for. So yeah, have fun, load up on depth, and don't be afraid to take somebody that you like.
Yeah, guys. So we are with Matt McPeak here from Kicking or Sticking Fantasy Football Podcast. Matt, thanks for coming on. Thank you for helping us with our fantasy football drafts. But we got a special time, and it's that 2-minute warning.
That'll bring us to the 2-minute warning.
And tonight on the 2-minute warning, guys, we are going to talk about COVID. I mean, COVID has been running the world for how long now? Since March, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 years now, right? Nonetheless, guys, do not let COVID get you down. Wake up every day with a smile on your face. Get out there, enjoy life, because if life is bringing you down, if you are consistently nagging, oh, I'm not working, I'm not doing this, it is going to affect the home life. It is going to affect your kids. It's going to affect your children. It's going to affect your aunts and uncles. Wake up every day with a smile on your face, and just be kind to people. We're all struggling. We're all anxious to watch football and sports, but if it gets shut down, it gets shut down. Do not go out and riot the towns and burn down your city or whatever. Like, all that stuff is total nonsense. Get over it. Get with it. This is Michael Buckheiser, Mike and Mike Man Hour, live, raw, and uncut sports talk. Special thanks to Matt McPeak, Fantasy Football Podcast, Kicking or Sticking on rtssportsnetwork.com, 6 p.m. East Coast time. You guys have a great time, great night. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye.
Peace.